about this webinar. And I must thank Dr. Muktinder Singh for nice introduction this evening. Now I will come directly to the topic, art of prescribing. Why this topic? This topic is a very relevant today because homeopathic prescribing is at crossroad. And there are different ways and means of teaching homeopathy has come up, prescribing homeopathic has come up, and our young people, our students, especially those who are doing post-graduation, PhD, they are at the level of confusion, we can say, because they don't know which one is correct and they will follow. So all these things has led to a kind of confusion in homeopathic system of medicine. And we know that confusion, if there are, it leads to clarity at the end. So I will talk a little more about prescribing, and then we will come to conclusion, whatever is the process of prescribing. So let's begin. Welcome all the viewers. I know there are many of my colleagues, my students, practitioners. So I welcome all of them to this web series. There are two things in that, prescribing and the art of prescribing. What is prescribing? Decision to give appropriate instruction about treatment to a sick person with intention to make him healthy. Now see here, it's a decision. And we know the decision is made based on some facts. It's a judgment. It's action. But action has to be based on sound base. There has to be reason for some action. So a physician must have reason for action. Then only he can act appropriately. And this appropriate action, this appropriate of his performing duty becomes prescribing. It includes correction in the mode of living, right food habits, removing maintaining causes, do's and don'ts, and the last and most important thing, though other factors also important, the most important thing is indicated medicine with suitable dose. Here the action of physician is important because here only the physician is acting. All others 1, 2, 3, 4 points are the suggestion to the patient. He has to act. Here physician is acting to select medicine and prescribe proper doses. Second word is the art. What is meaning of art? It's a creative activity, we all know. It's an application of human creative skill and imagination. The art also means the imagination and skill, and it is shaped by materials, techniques, and forms. It is an act of expressing feeling, thoughts, and observation. And if you see from one to the last, these are all needed for a homeopathic prescription. What is special in homeopathic prescription? See, we differ largely at many points with any system of medicine. And the first point is, it does not merely depend on diagnosis of disease, but it also takes into account the understanding person, the sick, the person who is sick. Totality of symptoms becomes the basis of prescription in homeopathy. Understanding the totality will lead to the portrait of disease. That is what Hahnemann mentions in aphorism 6. This portrait has to be matched with the image of medicine. We study medicine in Materia Medica from the point of understanding the image, and it needs a skill to create a disease picture and drug picture in case taking and the study of Materia Medica respectively. And when picture comes, it's art, no doubt. In other sense, a physician needs to have an art of knowing the patient and knowing the medicines in totality. Therefore, it is obligatory, it is moral duty in homeopathy prescribing to learn and master the art of prescribing. Because, see, what is required is art from understanding of the patient and in understanding of the medicine also. And why, how we select the medicine? Selection of medicine is based on law of similars. Picture of disease person and picture of disease has to be matched. Medicine should be similar as much as possible. More the similar, better is the prescription. You all must have experienced when similarity is at very high level, the cure is expected better. The result is expected better. If the similarity is a very low level, the low level outcome also comes. So it's a similarity which decides the outcome. Aim of physician is in prescribing is to look for a medicine which is as closely similar to the picture of the sick person as possible. That is what is called simillimum. In other words, we can say the portrait of disease has to be matched with the image of medicine. What Hahnemann has expressed about prescribing. See, he mentions in aphorism 153 in original, in search of homeopathic specific remedy, that is to say, in this comparison of collective medicine of natural disease with the list of symptoms of known medicine, he's also telling of comparing this both. In order to find among these an artificial morbific agent corresponding by similarity to the disease to be cured. The most striking, singular, uncommon, and peculiar, that is called characteristic. Sign and symptoms of the case of disease are chiefly and most solely in view, for it is more particular that very similar ones in the list of symptoms of the selected medicine must correspond to. So what he's telling is, in comparison, what corresponding is the characteristic in order to constitute the most suitable for effecting the cure. The more general, what he means general here is more common and undefined symptoms like loss of appetite, headache, debility, restless sleep, discomfort, and so forth demand but little attention, means no attention these things require. When of that vague and indefinite character, if they cannot be more accurately described, as symptoms of such a general nature are observed in almost every disease and from almost every drug. So, as we know that in any sickness, there will be loss of appetite, there will be debility, there will be weakness, there will be restlessness. These are not important unless they have some description, more precisely, more modification, like marked with the aggravations, emulation, modality. Then this becomes important. What is Boningersen's view? See, this I have collected from Boningersen's lesser writing. He is talking to the physicians of Rhineland. What he is telling in that his lecture is prescribing on the name of disease, what he calls is medicina nominalis, is still doing untold mischief. For such a treatment is a very acme of irrational and unconscionable, means unreasonable routine. And warning against such a practice would justly be considered an insult even by the youngest of our colleagues. So he feels that, he wants that even our youngest colleague should not prescribe for the name of disease. The choice of remedy has to be made too carefully and too cautiously. The healing art is known as morals. The motto holds good: bonum ex omni parte, malum ex cormi defecto. Means if there is a problem in violating this, it's a violating the morals. He gives example in his lecture. I request everybody to read that very beautifully as described a case of phosphorus where the character of cough is present and he has given phosphorus to that patient, but it was failed. It has not responded. Then there was a characteristic symptom observed. Dry heat during sleep and profuse sweat during awake. That guided first Sambucus, which cured the person. So what he feels is it's not the cough, it is the patient, it is the some characteristic which is throwing in the patient. That has to be taken care. What Keynes tell about that? Success of prescribing depends upon the view taken of the totality of the symptoms. So in what we look the totality, that is more important. The view of any given totality affords the indifferent or marked success of any given prescription. So if it is marked success or indifferent, this result comes because of how we have taken totality. To be able to view the totality of symptoms so that the most similar remedy will appear as the mind is the aim of healing artist. Here also, he tells physicians as an artist. As the view varies, so varies the success. By first fixing in mind what symptoms are common, then it will be easy to discover that symptoms are uncommon or in other words, strange, rare, peculiar. So he suggests in every case, first segregate all the commons. Then what is remaining becomes uncommon. And he has suggested this way in repertoire also, how to select common and uncommon and make it analysis of a case. So remember, when you are taking the case, find out what is the diagnosis. Then automatically, what are the common symptoms? Segregate that, and whatever remains is uncommon symptoms, important for prescription. Common symptoms are such as are pathognomic of disease and of pathology, and such as are common to many remedies and are found in large rubrics in our repertories. Like he gives example, constipation, nausea, irritability, delirium, weeping, weakness. See, if you see the generality chapter, weakness is biggest rubric. So weakness comes in everybody, whatever disease comes. In mind, irritability, sadness, they are very, very important, very big rubrics. And they are the common emotions of human being. So unless they are modified, they are the common symptoms. Like chill, fever, sweat. When such symptoms have taken their places in any given case, it will be seen at once that what remains must be uncommon, therefore peculiar, and as such are always predicted of the patient as a whole and of his parts in particular. However, some of these common symptoms may become peculiar when the circumstances are peculiar. It must not be seen that physician who has in mind only the pathology as the basis for his prescription has only what is most common and therefore has no view of his totality and therefore violates the first principle of prescribing. He prescribes for results, for endings, and not for things first, not for the causes. These ultimate symptoms are the least value. But a physician must have a good and full knowledge of all these, as well as of anatomy and physiology, or he will not have the basis for good judgment and hence will form a distorted view of totality. So he has given importance the view of totality, and view of totality people should know, the physician should know what is diagnosis, what is pathology, the knowledge of all these preclinical clinical subject. He knows what are the common symptoms so that he can make judgment about the uncommon symptoms and about the symptoms of the person. Bogus view. What Bogus says is correct prescribing is the art. See, he's also telling about the art. Is the art of carefully fitting pathogenetic to clinical symptoms, and what it requires a special aptness in grasping the essential points of symptoms image, a great drudgery in mastering a working knowledge of our large materia medica, and a most skillful use of many books of reference repertory. So here he says, essential points of the image has to be known. And he says how to obtain essential image, how to come to the diagnosis and prescription, and finally totality. So he says, ask the patient to tell her own story. And from that own story, you have to find out the cause and sickness and the course of sickness and natural modifier, that means the modalities. And he has listed few things which I will tell you. Like, if you have some symptoms, you have found the cause, you have found the result, found the outcome of the disease, then find out what are the natural modifier, how it changes with the time, how symptoms changes with the temperature, open air, posture, being alone, motion, sleep, eating and drinking, touch, pressure, discharge, etc. And then a consideration of mental state comes next in order of importance. And he has listed only three things: irritability, sadness, fear. There can be many, but this is the broad emotions. Third step, he tells patient's own description of his sensations, like what is his feeling, burning. See, these are the subjective symptoms which we cannot see. Patient only has to tell. Burning, cramping, cutting, bursting, throbbing, and thirst. See how the natural modifiers are changing the symptoms. Fourth step, objective aspect. So after subjective, he tells about the objective. Expression of sickness, facial expressions, any change in the face, nervous extensibility, sensibility, restlessness, torpor, state of secretion, abnormal coloring, all this has to be observed. Lastly, he says, the part affected must be determined. This also brings the investigation in touch with the diagnosis. Differentiating factor may belong to any rubrics whatsoever. See, he's the first person among stalwarts who is mentioning about the lab investigations and importance of diagnosis in lab investigations. So what we have learned from this stalwart, Gunningashan, Kent, and Boger, what all things we should know in a case to make a picture, to understand the case, modalities, go from easy to the known to unknown, let us say. So first we have to understand the modalities, aggravating factors, amiable factors. Any patient will tell the aggravating factor first. Like a patient comes with a headache, he will tell what all things causes headache, what makes the headache worst. Even if you ask about ameliorating factor, he may not tell easily. He says nothing makes it better. It's only aggravated by this. So aggravating factors first automatically, spontaneously comes out from the patient. Note that. Note the aggravating factor. Then find out ameliorating factor, general or particular. It may be general aggravation, particular. Then causation also find out. Time, temperature, weather, open air, all those factors which I have said earlier. Then all uncommon symptoms in a person. Symptoms belonging to whole person, like mind and body. Then find out whether there is pathological general tendencies, nature of pathology, concomitants. And finally, you may find out some keynotes. But what impression we have about keynotes and what we teach to some students is different from what Guernsey has to say about keynotes. What Guernsey is telling is, Keynotes means a symptoms representing the whole remedy. By getting such a symptom in a case, one can be quite sure that the rest of case will fit into the same remedy picture. This needs a proper judgment. So with all this, we come to this conclusion that the aim in prescribing is to look for minimum. That means totality of the patient to be exactly matched with the totality of medicine. Now this is the theory part, and we'll see how it is applicable. See, many times people say that theory in homeopathy is different than practical, but I will say no. What is practical in homeopathy is follow the theory, follow the guidelines, follow strictly the principles of homeopathy, then it becomes practical. So there is exactly no difference in principles and practice, theory and practice. What is more theoretical is more practical. Now let us see in our practice what kind of cases we come into dealing with. That is first acute cases. Mostly in our clinic, in villages, those who are practicing here and there, they will find acute cases come mainly. But we have impression, I mean homeopaths have general impression from the public is chronic cases are better treated by homeopath. But I will tell you both are equally important, acute cases and chronic cases. Chronic cases, there are varieties. They come sometimes with characteristic, sometimes with dominant pathology and few concomitants, and sometimes pure clinical where characteristics are very, very few. So how we'll deal with such cases? We have two methods, repertorial and non-repertorial. Non-repertorial does not mean that we don't repertorize. We repertorize mentally. We try to see the case and then our mind works out based on logic. So as we go in a case, we find out what are the medicines coming. Finally, a few medicines come in our mind. Then we ask further question and differentiate the remedy. And then we prescribe. That is non-repertorial. Here also, we are making a picture of disease and we are comparing with the picture of drugs without referring repertory because we know materia medica that vastly. So this non-repertorial method is suggested only to them who are very, very well versed with materia medica. Second is repertorial. Here, we have few stalwarts, we have given guidelines about prescription. So there are few methods, bone immersions, Boger, Kent, and clinical methods. Acute cases. How we deal with acute cases? Acute cases are defined as disease which begins suddenly, progress faster, runs a definite course, and finally end either with recovery or death. They are caused by exciting causes or acute miasms. This we all know as it's defined in Organon and even by Kent. Contrary to general belief, the treatment of acute diseases are much easier by a homeopathic mode of treatment because the manifestation and the picture is clear to the patient. Hence, difficulty in forming a totality and selecting a remedy are minimized. While attending to an acute case, the physician should be able to limit his inquiry to the recent deviation from health. So he has to know how disease has started and what is the present state and what are the factors in between. If he gets that much, he should be satisfied and he should be able to prescribe. One case of intussusception, I will give it to you. I'll present it to you. We all know what is intussusception. It is the process in which a segment of intestine invaginates into adjoining intestinal lumen, causing bowel obstruction. and sometimes it's a very severe pain with constipation and vomiting. This is how the picture comes. This is a case of 7-year-old child. It's a diagnosed case. It has come with the reports. He comes in our OPD with the reports, with abdominal pain. The pain was violent, used to come and go. Patient was brought for homeopathy treatment because he was advised hospitalization for observation and if needed to undergo some surgical procedure, which the patient wanted to avoid. History of presenting complaint. Pain started suddenly at 3 a.m. He was given buttermilk, which relieved the pain at little, but the pain continued. Morning, he was taken to a medical checkup to a nearby physician. The doctor suspected worm manifestation and gave some medicine. The whole day pain continued. Every 1 hour it used to come and go paroxysmally. Pain continued through the night. He was taken to Medical College Hospital. The child had pain few months back also. He was subjected to blood investigation and ultrasonography. The USG revealed intussusception. He was advised admission, and since he preferred medicinal treatment, he contacted us. And this is the hospital record which he brought with us because he didn't want to get admitted. And you can see the record: abdominal pain since 2 days, history of fever and vomiting 3 to 4 episodes, non-projectile vomiting. These are the record. And he was advised that injections and ultrasonography and to pediatric surgery. And this is the ultrasound report where they say transient intussusception. On further inquiry, the following symptoms were found to be present. The child was very irritable with the pain. The anger used to increase his pain. The pain was better by pressure. The child was lying on abdomen or curled up in order to relieve the pain. It was a typical posture of some medicines which are described in Materia Medica. Hunger not reduced. He was asking for frequent food. The group of remedy which came in our mind is chamomilla, Staphysagrea, and colocynth. Because of the prominent modalities, he was prescribed colocynth 200 every 2 hours till the pain subsides. Slowly, the severity of pain subsided. In the next 12 hours, the pain stopped. After the pain subsided, he was prescribed a deep-acting medicine to complete the cure and prevent the further recurrence. He had the following indications. Child is thin-built and liable to get digestive troubles often, had problems during dentition, sweats on head and profusely, weather changes causes cold and tonsillitis, craving for roasted meat, chilly patient. He was prescribed Calcarea first 30 at bedtime. Pain stopped completely since last evening. Past soft and semi-solid motion. Desire for food. Appetite good. Overall feels better. Slept well. Then we advised him to go for another ultrasonography. And this ultrasonography revealed no problem. Everything is fine. No evidence of any obvious bowel mass. Free fluid detected. Abdomen and sonography examination. Another acute case I'll tell you. This is a case of appendicitis. 4 years old boy came for the treatment of diagnosed case of acute appendicitis. This patient has come directly from the ICU. He was by local measures for stomach pain initially, then was admitted in ICU for the pain and vomiting. When the pain, especially the vomiting, was a little better, he was referred for surgery, to which parents did not agree and wanted homeopathic treatment. See, this is a family which has strong belief, strong faith, a strong follower of homeopathy. You can see the ultrasound, tubular hypoechoic lesion in the right iliac fossa, suggestive of acute appendicitis. Some more information about the patient. Hot patient, sweating, mainly forehead. Moderately built towards thin. Thirsty, takes water often and good quantity. Dryness of mouth along with pain. Craving for sweet 3 marks, peda and egg. Cannot tolerate small corrections. Feels I'm right. This is a small child. He always feels I'm right. Irregular food habits, irregular bowels, and often passes foul gases. Pain better application. Typical right lumbar pain, not better by vomiting. Was given Lyco 0 bar 1. It is a Lyco picture he is throwing up. 0 bar 1, one dose daily for 3 weeks, and was asked to report after that. See, because he was from little far place, so I told them report in between if there are any problems. Otherwise, continue the medicine and come after 3 weeks with the ultrasound report. Patient reported after 3 weeks with ultrasonography. Pain and all the complaints stopped after 1 week and was asked to continue 0 bar 1 daily morning dose. And this was the ultrasound. No sonological abnormalities detected. And then he was asked to stop. No pain, appetite good, no vomiting, no nausea, advised to discontinue the medicine. Then nowadays, acute cases are coming with the fever, and people are afraid of this pandemic. Some come directly to us and don't go for any checkup. Like I will tell you, there are many patients who are suspected having this pandemic virus, but they don't go for checkup. And few patients, like they have told, my family member has got COVID positive. I also have fever, cold, but I don't go for checkup. You can treat or not. So in that case, we have given medicines, and most of them are better. So it is being treated just like a case of fever, because we need to treat a fever with fever totality, not with the name of disease. What to look in a case of fever? Look for stages of fever: chill, heat, sweat. Inquire about symptoms during these stages. So find out during chill, what is the time when it comes? What is the type of chill? Like partial, starting from back, starting from hand, starting from leg, whatever speciality of chill. Same thing with the heat and sweat. What makes it bad? Aggravating factor, ameliorating factor, and what comes with the chill? Like some people may get vomiting, some people may get headache, some people may get urination, some people may get thirst. All these are concomitant. How to treat a case of fever? Look for stages and inquire about this. I have already told. Then go to the chronic cases. In all chronic cases, I suggest my students follow all these steps because they're very, very important. If you miss, or if you are doing wrongly to any of these steps, then the outcome will be unexpected, maybe a failure. But if you follow these steps, then outcome will be surely a better outcome. What are the steps? Case taking, recording and interpretation, classification and evaluation of symptoms, defining the problem, erecting the totality, non-repertorial and repertorial approach decide there, and then prescription. I'll present a case of a 13 years old girl reported for the following things: back pain, low and middle up to neck, better by lying down, aggravated by sitting, standing, and cold, and in the morning also. Shoulder pain, neck, hands, finger joints aggravated in the morning, leg pains, knee pains, toes pain, see what not, all pains are there. Pulling leg pain, finger joints pain with heat and swelling, frequent cold and cough in the morning, nose block till sunrise, better by sun. Her all symptoms are caused and increased due to stress and anxiety, as it was very obvious before exams and before going to school. Patient was staying at Medicare. It's a very cold place here in Karnataka, and it's a very, very rainy place, very pleasant weather throughout the year, you can say. A cold place with heavy rains falls, and major part of the year it is raining. Used to get exposed to cold and rains, and used to suffer from cold very often. She also found the study was a difficult task for her. Often she used to be nervous in the school when she was asked to stand and answer. Slowly, she started getting back pain while sitting long in the school. And next to that, she started hand pain while completing the homework. So first school only started, then at home while doing homework. The parents, one is teacher and another is a businessman, used to pressurize her to get good marks and perform better than her neighbor friend. See, this is a peculiar condition of this child. When the child came for interview, I asked her personally, "Which marks you got?" She said 94%, and she started crying. I said, 94% is a very good mark. Why you are crying? He said, no, but my friend who is staying in a neighborhood, she got 95%. And then because of that, the parents were not happy. Parents were telling, we give you all the facilities, we are giving so much love, care to you. Why don't you have better than her? So their impression was, if you get even 80%, no problem. The neighbor girl should get 79%. So that kind of competitions are killing children, and that is causing the problem. Progressively, her pain became worse, and she started getting even neck pain, knee pain. She used to be very anxious in the morning, even in the bed, while getting up, thinking of her going to school. Since her mother was seropositive rheumatoid arthritic patient, it alarmed her, and the patient was taken to a rheumatologist. After thorough examination and lab investigation, she was diagnosed to have rheumatoid arthritis. She was given a mild course of steroids and painkillers, which saved her for the time being, and then again it came back. And this is the report with which they have come. See, the RF factor is high, CRP is high, and ESR is high. So this made the rheumatologist to make diagnosis of RA. So have a closer look. She was given Ayurvedic medicine for a few months. So after they tried allopathy, steroid, and painkiller, and again disease came back, they went to Ayurvedic physician. After a few months, she reduced her weight drastically, having joint pains, because they said that in Ayurveda they are having a lot of food restriction, and because this is a child, doesn't want to take whatever they suggest, and whatever she likes, she is not permitted to take. So she has reduced weight drastically. So nowadays she can't do any physical or mental work because she feels more pain. This frightened her parents, and they changed the place from Medicare to Mangalore. But her suffering continued. Finally, opted for homeopathic treatment. So we have taken some more detail because what we need is little more than what is provided. Physicals, we found she is a thin build, looks fragile, matured 1 year back, menses regular, painful on the first day, bleeding is scanty, joint pains also increases around menses, chilly but extremes of heat and cold also intolerable, sweating palm and feet, white dots on the nail, appetite good, likes pastries, cake, chicken, causes gas and acidity. Constipated, hard stool, difficult to pass, sometimes once in 2 days, especially before and during menses. Some of the picture related to the mind is sensitive, no anger at all, shy, anxious, nervous, and all the problems are increases and caused by anxiety. Can't face stage and crowd. Anxiety increases her sweating. Feels like hitting herself, feels like crying, sensitive to touch. Father 50 years old, having diabetes since 8 years. Mother 45 years old, RA patient since the age of 10 years. Brother 16 years, recurrent cold and cough. Paternal grandfather was diabetic, died at the age of 85. Maternal grandfather, not much known about his complaints. Maternal grandmother has old age arthritis. So what's the problem? Who is having problem? So problem definition is a column where you diagnose the person as well as the disease. Who is suffering and what is he suffering? And this problem definition sometimes directly suggests you the medicine. Patient who is sensitive, anxious, timid, easily affected by comments and criticism, who is also stressed because of the parents' pressure, who is chilly and likes to be in sun, is suffering from joint pains, diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. Now we'll go to the next step, analysis of the case. Here we'll separate common symptoms and then we'll look for what is uncommon. Back pain, knee pain, leg pain, neck pain, these all pains are common symptoms. Frequent cold cough, common symptom. Nose block, common symptoms. RF factor positive, ASR high is common symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. What are the uncommon symptoms? The modalities of the pain, type of the pain, pulling, emulation by sun, anxiety and increase all the complaints, painful menses first day, sweating palm and soles, craving pastries and cake, constipation during and after menses, mental and physical exertion aggravates. So what we get in this case? We got causative modalities, anxiety and emotions. Then we got modalities, physical and mental exertion. Then we got concomitants, menses before and during. Location and sensation, joint inflamed. So these are few things. The gist of case we have got is we have got causative modalities, we have got modalities, we have got concomitants, we have got location and sensation. So what is available? We have got the cause, we have got the complaints, we have got the modalities, we have got the mental state, we have got the concomitant. So we go for a method which is suitable to this case, and then wherever we get the cause, modalities, concomitants, we prefer BBCR methodology. And these are the rubrics taken: emotion aggravates, emotions, fright, anxiety aggravates, exertion, mental aggravates, exertion, physical aggravates, menstruation, constipation before, menstruation, constipation during, cold taking and its effect, sensation and complaints in general, that is the chapter, joints inflamed, sensation and complaints in general. So with this, we have repertorized the case, and we found Nux vomica, Silesia, Pulsatilla, Bryonia, Calcarea, Natrum. These are the very close running medicines. And then we tried to look with the whole picture, and we found prominently chilly patient, better by sun, white dots on the nails. This is found mostly in Silesia. Prescribed Silesia 30 and was given for a month. And then she was asked to come after a month with the report. So after a month, what is the report? All joint pains are better. She can write and do all homework. She is able to ride bicycle, which she was not able to do for some time. Constipation better. Menstrual pain and constipation during menses better. Feeling general tiredness after school. She was prescribed Cilicia 200. And then these are the results. You can see RF factor has become less, it is normal, and ESR has become less, and finally patient was cured. Then we come to clinical cases, because mostly nowadays we are getting clinical cases. They are treated here and they come with only clinical symptoms. The characteristics are very less. So one case I will present with that kind of things. What is clinical totality, and what is the view of our stalwarts about clinical totality? See what Clark says. Certain diseases come to have certain remedies assigned to them, and all the patients who are found to be suffering from any given disease must be dosed with one of the medicines credited to it. So he's telling certain diseases have certain remedies, no doubt. Then Crompton, who is the father of all this clinical methodology, what he says: we need any and every way of finding the right remedy. The simple simile, the simple symptomatic simillimum, and the furthest reach to all, the pathological simillimum. And I maintain that we are still within the lines of homeopathy, that is an expansive, progressive science. One liver abscess case I wish to present with you. This is a case of a person who is 54 years old, and he is diagnosed as a liver abscess. He had a complaint of pain in the right upper abdomen with restlessness and increased temperature. He also suffered from severe weakness and body ache, along with bitter taste in the mouth. He went to hospital for checkup and treatment. The ultrasonography revealed liver abscess 7 into 5.9. And this is the report: liver abscess with the early areas of tissues breakdown. He was advised immediate hospitalization and treatment, including surgery, but he did not wish to go for operation. Hence, he came for homeopathic treatment. And this paper he came with that: please admit liver abscess. Then we have taken some further more details. Appetite, don't feel like eating, slight nausea, satiety, no desire for food but can relish a slight pungent food, likes hot food and drink, bitter taste in mouth, no change in thirst but prefers to take water frequently, constipated, forehead along with the pain, there is a sweating. So what he said is there is a liver area, there is a pain, and with that there is a sweat on the forehead. Little anxious about the prognosis, don't want to go for any surgery, likes cold weather of South India, wants fan. Now you see here we don't have many characteristics. Whatever is told by patient is mainly the common symptoms of the disease. So we have taken these rubrics. Liver hypochondria is a location. Abscess hypochondria, diagnostic symptom. Bitter taste in the mouth, because it is a little more than we have taken as a concomitant, though it is a common symptom, but when it is prominent and if nothing else is available, we can take it as a concomitant. Sweat, forehead, this is one little more important concomitant. That is also concomitant. Constipated, concomitant. With that, Cilicia, lachesis, bryonia, lycopodium has come as a close running medicine. And he was prescribed Cilicia, advised to report of the follow-up, but after 10 days. See, I agreed to treat this patient knowingly that this is going to be a serious case, because he was a very cooperative, and he said, if you want, I can come with the report every 1 week with ultrasound, with blood checkup, but please don't send me to the hospital for operation. So every 10 days he wanted to report with ultrasound. The second report after the treatment, this is the first report. Regular hypoic lesion, right lobe of the liver, suggestive of abscess. The same thing is continuing, but size is little less. Earlier it was 7 into 5.9, it is 7.5.8. Patient feels better. So tuberculin 1M was given as intercurrent because see the expected indicated remedy, though it was prescribed, it has yielded not expected result, little more we expected. So tuberculin 1M was given and silicate 30 continued. And he was asked to come after 15 days again with ultrasound. This time resolving abscess in the right lobe of liver, and size also is less. So here what is the report is no pain, flatulence is there, resolving abscess, and size has become less. Salicylate 200 was given once a week. Patient was asked to report after a month with ultrasound and function test. Here liver is normal in size, no local mass lesion detected in both the lobes of liver, and liver function test is normal. Even SGOT, SGPT, and bilirubin, everything is normal. Normal, abscess resolved, advised to stop medicine, patient overall better, but has a little flatulence. He was asked to discontinue the treatment. This is my last case, and this is a case which reported few days back. So I have just repertorized with the mobile and taken you for presentation because this gives a very good idea about our methodology. This is a case of ovarian cyst. Presentation was severe dysmenorrhea. She came on 18th July, this previous month to previous one, 2 months back. She's married for 14 years and not conceived so far. Her periods are regular but very painful. She suffers badly during the periods. She is not relieved of pain by any oral painkillers and has to be given some injections for the first 2 days. Recently, she was diagnosed to have ovarian cyst and was advised to undergo operation in order to get relief from the pain. But she does not want to undergo any operation as she still has hope for pregnancy and feels the surgical procedure may end her hope. So this is the report. This is a report on 10th July. Large right ovarian simple cyst. A brief description about the case. She is thin-built, housewife, stays with in-laws and in a joint family. Got married at the age of 21 years after completion of her degree, wanted to work as a teacher, but could not do so because of her family background, as no female are allowed to work. She feels difficult to pass time as husband goes to work in the morning to a long distance and returns late. She feels unfortunate herself because she could not conceive, whereas other co-sisters are having children. She has two co-sisters having 4 and 3 children respectively. Menstrual history: menarche 13 years, regular menses with 5 to 6 days bleeding with mild pain for the first day. At that time, well, she was menarche. Her menses become painful after her marriage, when with each menses she was expecting to be pregnant. For some years, it used to be late and painful. Slowly, she lost the hope of becoming pregnant, as she knows that problem lies with the husband's sperm count. Now, the menses have become regular, but the pain has become too severe to tolerate. There are some symptoms which are very characteristic. Before menses, mood swings, feels irritated, and a kind of fear that menses will appear and will get severe suffering. Very sad, does not want to talk before menses. During menses, vomiting along with the pain, mainly the right lower abdomen, because cyst is there in the right. Faints during severe weakness, cannot even walk and talk, talks in symbolic language, Sadness 3 marks, increases amounting to depression. She said that before periods only it starts, and during menses the sadness becomes more and more, and she is like depressed person that time. Character of menses is regular, profuse, dark, clotted, lasts for 4 to 5. Aversion to food. Salty food aversion 3 marks. Does not like vegetables. Desire sweet 3 marks. And all kinds of non-veg, especially fish and chicken, she desires. Hot patient, cannot tolerate heat. Does not like to go in sun even in the morning hours. Sweats profusely and feels very uneasy with the sweat. Mind, she does not feel that there is any happiness left in her life, and she does not get pleasure in anything which other family members enjoy, even with the husband. She does not feel good in company, neither in sex. Does not like to do any work willfully, though she has to work whole day as a housewife. She is very slow in thought as well as mental and physical work. Sometimes she keeps doing things while others finish their work. She does not feel like going in action, as everyone asks about children. She does not mingle with people and prefers to be alone and keep thinking. She feels she is very slow in everything. She hates people, including her husband. What is available in the case? Qualified mental we have got. We have got physical generals. And these are the rubrics we took. Sadness menses before, sadness menses during, indolence, aversion to work, indifferent, pleasure to, aversion salt, desire sweet, faintness menses during, vomiting menses during, menses copious, dark and painful. So we see we have got qualified mentals, physical generals and generals. Menses also are general symptoms. And we have repertorized, you see mind, sadness, mental, depression, mind before. So these are rubrics taken from the Kent. Because we know qualified mental and physicals when we have, we can go for Kent. After repertorization, two main medicines are coming as prominently indicated medicine, sepia and natrium. And it was not very easy to differentiate that. The following understanding about the patient helped to finalize the prescription. First point, she is hot. She doesn't like to go in sun. She cannot tolerate heat. So in these two medicines, natriumur gets a favorable point. Does not like sun. Strong aversion to company and talking to people. This is no doubt found in sepia also, but natrium covers all. She was prescribed natriumur 200 once a week bedtime. She reported after 3 weeks of treatment, after the menses, bleeding 6 days but not profuse, pain plus but tolerable, could avoid taking injection, no vomiting but nausea, feel like there, could not eat anything. Feeling of sadness was less, was lying whole day, could talk ecosystem. Her ultrasound was taken just last month, 3/8 August, after 3 weeks of medicine. And there is reduction in size. Earlier it was a large ovarian cyst. This time it has reduced to 5.3 to 2.6. So right ovarian cyst, but there is reduction in size. She was given once again the course of natriumur 200, 3 weeks, and asked to report again after 3 weeks after the periods. Menses regular, bleeding moderate, pain better, moods better, and hope. Her ultrasound reveals no ovarian cyst. But see, if you see the report, fibroid has suddenly come up. ovaries are normal, follicles are there, and there are no any cyst in the ovaries, but there is uterine fibroid. And I think this is has come up, which makes us to prescribe next time the complementary natrum, that is sepia. So next time we can see, because now she wants treatment for her pregnancy, I mean conceiving also. So now with this, I finish the cases, and what conclusion we make from all this learning, from all this discussion, we come to a conclusion. That conclusion is every homeopathic physician should expertise himself, herself in art. That means knowing the theory and applying it. Art of prescribing is learned by applying the principles into practice without violence. Follow the guidelines given by our stalwarts. There is no shortcut in learning, especially when it comes to a learning a practice of medicine. See, many of my students, sometimes when we meet, they say, sir, tell some specific, some tips. There are no tips. It's only to apply those principles, how to make it better use, that is called tips. Hahnemann also says, in search of specific medicine. Specific medicine means the medicine which is applicable in that case. So specific means indicated medicine. So tips means how to get indicated medicine faster. Whether it is repertorial or non-repertorial, mechanical similarity will lead to failure. Thank you all very much for listening it. I come to end with this slide. Sir, you can take over.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Shashikant Tiwari Sarji. It was really a great presentation. So now our moderator, our Professor Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sir, has been with us for moderating this session. So I request and call him for moderation of the session. Sir, please, it's your.
Thank you, Dr. Srikant. Good evening to all of our seniors and all our participants of 120 people attending us. It is clear that life is short and art is long. The crisis fleeting, experience perilous, and decision difficult. The physician must not only be prepared to do what is right himself, but also to make the patient, the attendant, the external cooperate. In the first aphorism of Hahnemann, aphorism of our father of medicine, Hippocrates. The physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to cure as it is strong. The father of homeopathic medicine, Hahnemann. So these two fathers has given this in the first aphorism of the writings. What it indicates that physicians, the physicians, they have given importance to. So what Dr. Tiwari has told, he has given rightly to the importance of the physicians, who are necessarily to act as a key position in the treatment of entire gamut of diseases in the world. So Dr. Tiwari has given us what is prescribing and what is art. Art is a creative activity. And what is special to homeopathic prescribing? And to that, similarity is impressed upon him, by him. So these are the commonality of the work endorsed by him. Second, I can say, so this homeopathy is a science and art, which is based on similia similibus curantur. Without that, homeopathy is non-existent. The sole and solitary objective of homeopathic physician is to establish similarity between natural disease and artificial drug disease, which he has very clearly has elaborated. Again, I can say, now, as Hahnemann told, nothing can be known of disease except through symptoms. If the patient who is ill, not his part and organs, symptoms are the unfailing guide for the selection of the remedy. The remedy is largely and indicated by this, not even by a single symptom, however peculiar it may be. But peculiar and characteristic individual symptoms is the case and not the common symptom, but the peculiar symptom denotes the similar. So this is how Dr. Tiwari has very nicely has told these aspects. He has scrapped what is prescribing principle in specific similarity. That means what is scarlet fever is given for belladonna, influenza is given by arsenic, cinchona for malaria, whooping cough by Drosera. He has scrapped those, which is very important, has not many, his entire speech on that. So he has also told that prescribing on the basis of prophylactic and genotypic red cross has been scrapped, just like scarlet fever, belladonna, and trauma, lidum, etc. He has not described, but this is the indication of his talks. He has told that what is that is called the Quando, Quivus oxalis, Commando, or and UV, Quid and Quivus oxalis. So these are the important features he has given in the entire speech. So here he has given totality of symptom is different stalwarts by Kate and other people. Very important, and we have to gather that. So the totality, the entire representation of the drug and disease, which enables the physician to individualize between disease and remedy. It is not a single characteristic symptom. It means which gives us a clear idea about the nature of sickness and disease, which has very rightly has pointed out. So here I can say that totality to him is chronic disease, very nicely has elaborated by different stalwarts. Acute disease also he has told, but here I can intervene with him that extra thing we have to keep in mind, that in Hahnemann's lesson writing, he has told that acute totality is based on the very constant symptom and frequently appearing symptom, strongest symptom, and troublesome symptom. Therefore, these four criteria should be chosen for building of the acute totality. And this has to be believed on magnitude of the symptom. I believe the magnitude has importance and which can be described in the cases of acute diseases. But the same is not the chronic diseases. But the symptoms regarding the cause, we can say that each symptoms and cause is not traceable by the history of only alone. It can be traced out from the all histories, that present is complaint, history of the present complaint, past history, family history, personal history, and history of treatment. All the histories will talk to us about the cause. And the location, sensation, modality, concomitant are not solitary for finding out the different components of a symptom. We have to take different aspect, cause, unexpected feature, alternate with, sensation as extensions, various type, adaptability, onset, side, and periodicity. So this can be generalized in that forms. So now this, if we say the common uncommon, he has given a very quite practical training on that. And I think if a general idea of the people or the participant will be there, it will be easy for you all people to decide that uncommons are negative generals. When taskless with dry tongue is one of the example. Peculiar association, hot patient desiring for warm food, lycopodium. Chilly patient desiring for cold food is phosphorus. So these are the concomitant we have taken account. Alternate with peculiar sensations, peculiar locations, and peculiar modalities are to be taken as peculiar uncommon symptoms. Extensions, onsets, and periodicity can be included when they are peculiar. So I am surprised to see that he has made a astounding cure of acute diseases like appendicitis, and two substances which are difficult for the case to be handled by homeopaths. Very nicely he has dealt. I give my appreciation to him. In the fever totality, he has given also how the types, aggravation, amelioration, concomitant as necessary. Here I can give the clue, one clue to all, that fever totality in general by Keynes, if you read to that, each aggravation have got each from head to foot again. So if you consult that repertory again, you can find the correct simillimum and individualistic drugs. So in case of fever, the wonderful cure he has made, and there's arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, liver abscess, and ovarian cyst, he has made this pathway. I appreciate you, doctor. And now the cases with him, he has not noticed with he, unfortunately, we are not with that. He has not found myogenetic backgrounds, any strong, any drawback with him. He is fortunate to cure with the first stroke of medicines. But there are difficult cases where you have to go to myogenetic aspect of study. And then if myogenetic cleavage is underlooked and look to it, and you can get better cure also. And regarding intercurrent remedies, it is the intercurrent remedy he has prescribed. So the concept of intercurrent remedy, of course, might be confusing to many of the physicians attending to this seminar. That intercurrent remedy has been clearly not told in anywhere in the Keynes or any stalwart literature, but not in Hahnemann's writing like his lesser writings or his chronic disease or it is organ of medicines. But he has given a footnote, not footnote, it's given a forwarding to the Von Hussen's character repertory, that is a repertory of antipsoric remedies. Second editions, now 1833. The footnote he has given clear idea about intercurrent remedy. I think that should be read. And that says that again prescribing totality is necessary for that. And certain cases also, morbid intercurrency is to be necessary. In morbid intercurrency, he has prescribed means chronic disease. It means a morbid state appeared during the treatment of chronic disease. We prescribe acute remedy, and that is called morbid intercurrency. So nothing to be confused with morbid intercurrency and intercurrent remedies. So this is all I can leave you to you, and I'm happy, very happy to see that he has given the real way to you, because many people think that prescribing on the basis of causations are to be given. That is anger, asthma, arsenic, apprehension, diarrhea, arsenum nitricum, milk, then diarrhea, calcarea carb is to be given. And remote traumatic cause, sore, pain, who is arnica is to be given. And burn, correct, cicatrization, causticum is to be given. Sprain, arthritis, rustux is to be given. It's all bogus prescribed. It again depends upon your totality of symptom. Then there are also similar examples. Suppressed anger, prescribed Chamomilla ignatia, suppressed coryza, China, is all also similar pattern of prescribing. Prescribing on the basis of dogmaism, chloromycetin 30, or sequelae of chloromycetin. These are the examples. Eruptions of and abscess, silesia, respiratory complaint, arum metallicum, arum antimitrat, eczema, megaerium. Similarly, we have got similar concept with the many people layer-wise treatment, and many wise people also think that we have to give biology or cytopathy in some cases. So this is called the Hydra headache, and it is I can say these all kind of prescriptions are heuristic prescription, and it is not algorithmic. And general principle is to be applied as advocated by our masters. And I'm really very happy Dr. Tiwari has given us the right, and that is the path through which we must all work out. Thank you. Back to Dr. Singh, Professor Singh.
So,
and back to you,
Professor Dr. Niranjan Mohanty ji and Professor Shashikant Tiwari ji. You both are stalwarts and living legends So I bow to your knowledge and your application of knowledge. I would like to uh, mark the presence of respected Dr. Arun Bhasme sir. He has been fighting for homeopathy and has done great job. So, sir, I really welcome you to this platform. And
Thank you.
this evening is now about to conclude. So I, on behalf of IAHP webinar and IAHP scientific committee, thanks all the participants. And now I would invite Dr. Tanveer Hussain for the Thanksgiving and concluding the session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhinder Singh ji, for inviting me for this vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to congratulate respected Dr. Shashikant Tiwari sir for his very wonderful, for very comprehensible presentation. He has been always a very great teacher. I have a long association with Dr. S.K. Tiwari sir. We have been in even in Liga in Germany when I have seen him bowing his head in front of Dr. Hahnemann's house in Torgau. I have that picture also. I have seen the dedication, the devotion of this man towards homeopathy. Sir, you have presented very nicely, very in a very easy language, very comprehensible for every one of us. We have enjoyed your lecture. Friends, you know that this is my strong opinion that those people who have any connection with the Mecca of homeopathy, that is Kolkata, I believe that to get a better nourishment, one has to grow in the environment of that soil of homeopathy, the Mecca of homeopathy, that is Kolkata. And I am so happy that Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sir, Dr. Shashikant Tiwari, they are having very strong background from Calcutta School of Homeopathy, where people are very much artistic in prescribing. I mean, to be a very artistic in prescribing, if one has that background, that we can get all that empiricism from Kolkata School of Thoughts. So I thank Dr. S.K. Tiwari sir for his presentation. I thank Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sir, who has very elaborately noted down and explained all the points regarding the presentation of Dr. S.K. Tiwari sir in very beautiful way. And he has acknowledged all the beautiful points and has explained them further also. So to be a very good artistic prescriber, we have to standardize our knowledge. As Dr. S.K. Tiwari sir, these people, they are having very strong foundation on the basic principles of homeopathy, that is law of similia. They are following them very nicely. So because when we prescribe our medicines, many people, we can come up with the different medications, but these people who are very thorough with the knowledge, they come up with a single medicine. So with these words, I thank Dr. S.K. Tiwari sir again and Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sahab. I thank Dr. V. Gupta, who is our President of Honor, Dr. M.A. Rao sir, the President of IHP National President. And I especially thank Dr. Arun Bhasme sir, who is there today in our presentation. Sir, namaskar sir. Thank you very much for your presence here. We are blessed to have you here today. So I thank Dr. Mukhinder Singh, all these CEC members who are listening to this beautiful evening, beautiful lecture. I thank one and all for their qualitative and quantitative time they have given to us. Thank you once more to all of you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhinder Singh. Now over to Dr. Mukhinder Singh.
Thank you all. As Dr. Tanveer Singh, Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sir, Dr. Shashikant Tiwari sir, Dr. Gupta sir, Dr. Rao sir, whole CEC member. Few announcements before we log off. Number one, this recording would be provided by tomorrow on IAHP official channel. As ever, it is uploaded within 24 hours these days. So I request you all to subscribe the IAHP official YouTube channel, and I would call in all to join IAHP. Those students or those scholars who are not into the IAHP, they must join IAHP, because IAHP is an organization for institutionally qualified Homeopath Center has always been pioneer in setting the trends and making the education and all the once again. Yes.
Dr. Mukhinder Singh ji, if we have some time, we can ask some questions if audience have some any queries to ask to Dr. Tiwari sir. There are some questions in the chat box.
Yes, Dr. Tiwari sir, can we ask some questions?
Can you listen to me?
Yes, sir. You
Sir,
are audible. So
Yeah.
I would read some of the questions.
Yeah.
So you please, if you have more questions, audience, we have 10 minutes, so we can take those questions for you. So, sir, there was a question regarding the potency. So someone has asked about the why 30, why not 30 or 1M? You have given colocin to a case of intussusception 200, colocin acute. Why not 30 or 1M? Dr. Harish Chandra has asked this question.
See, potency selection has been always a question. Whenever we present, we find that potency selection becomes a question. See, what Clark writes is about potency is, if the medicine is right, it works in any potency. So that question, leave it to the physician. It's like a driving car, where to put brake and where to put accelerator. If he knows driving, that works. But there are general instruction about it. One is the indication of medicine. If the similarity is at higher level, go for high potency. If the disease is having pathological changes along with indication at higher level, go for medium potency. So you have to see all the factors, like how is the level of similarity, how is the level of pathology, how is the sensitivity of the patient, and how patients build up, and background of the patient, including the whole history. You have to decide how is the patient, which can tolerate what type of potency along with pathology as well as constitution. So some cases we have given 200, some cases we give 1M also, sometimes we give one dose of 50 ml and keep quiet in migraine cases. It works. So depending on the case and all those factors we had described, we have to select potency. But if medicine is right, I will tell you, it will help. And then you can further decide after the follow-up whether you can increase the potency and you can continue the medicine. Yeah.
So, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, B. Vijay Lakshmi has asked that why Silicea repeated weekly, even though there was improvement in liver abscess case?
See, because we need to give frequent stimulus, and the patient was not available to come for a week every week. Patient is from around 200 kilometers far away. So patient was reporting weekly by phone, but we have given 3 doses in advance so that he can continue. And if there is a little progress, but if the things are continuing to trouble him, he can repeat. Because repeating dose is stimulus to the patient about symptoms reducing or increasing. So depending on the follow-up, no doubt we repeat the medicine. But when patient was far away and reporting every week, we used to tell him, take further dose, take next dose. Thinking that he may require, because see, an abscess case which is being treated, we have to see the symptoms. If symptoms still persist, we have to repeat the medicines. If symptoms stops completely, then only we can stop the medicine. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The last case, why you prescribe Natramur, not Cipia? This is a question from Dr. Sunita Gaikwad.
See, these two remedies, they come very close and they're also complementary. Now the next thing which is going to come up is CPI in this case also. Though no doubt we have given natrum because of the lonely feeling, because of a lot of intolerance. See, I have told why it is given, because the patient is hot, patient cannot tolerate heat, patient cannot tolerate sun. That is great aversion to sun is natrum, not the CPI. But after these symptoms are over, now see the fibroid has come from where we don't know. So C may require further complementary medicine as a CPI because it covers everything except few. So one medicine sometimes may not be sufficient in the whole course of chronic disease. That is what stalwarts also have told. So after the natrum phase is over, CPI may come in practice. But at present, because of hot patient and because of intolerance to sun, mainly the moods, CPI was not given and natrum was given.
Thank you, sir. So in case with ovarian cyst, like it was better and mind was improving, but fibroid uterus appeared, which again is a problem.
It has come after. This is the third ultrasound. Other two ultrasound, there are no CPI. No fibroid. Now only small fibroid has come. We don't know whether it is a temporary small growth, not correctly diagnosed with USG. We have to see the follow-up again because this is just 2 follow-ups I have taken. So total duration of this case is 21 days and 21 days, 42 days. We have to see how it works. But CPI may come for the next, I'm thinking, as a complementary medicine, and it also covers the totality. But at presently, CPI was not indicated because of few strong contraindications. So we have given natrum.
Sir, why intercurrent remedy is tuberculinum in liver abscess case?
Yeah, see, there were some more symptoms which I have not told here. See, one is that he has got tendency of abscess from the childhood also. Small boils, abscess he used to get. So that is one thing. And his family background is a little tubercular. So seeing that background, tuberculum vernum was given because that was indicated. Tuberculum vernum is given as a base of the, like Dr. Mohanty was telling, consideration of the whole family, whole person from background onwards leads to miasmatic origin also. So not strictly very miasmatic, but intercurrent remedy concept when the main medicine is not acting and some more indications are there in the background, take that background indications and prescribe. So tubercular diathesis is having that pus formation, recurrent pus formation, abscess, that was there in the childhood also this patient has, and family also is tubercular. So tubercular vernum was given.
Yes, sir. There is another question which I got in the personal WhatsApp is that most of the time, even when as we teachers, when we for the exam, students, they are very much confused in choosing the right repertory because these days case taking approaches has changed. So students are more inclined to ask about mind and all that. So they most of the time become biased. Is there any sure shot trick to decide the repertory? Because case taking can also.
I think students should refer the books. The type of cases decides the choice of repertory.
Can you
and these are all methodology. Like see, wherever I have repertorized, I have shown what are the things available in the case, then decide the repertory. Like the last case where we found there were a lot of qualified mentals, physical generals, then go for Kent repertory. Then if you have more of causation and concomitants and pathological generals, go for Bogers. If you have only complete symptoms and various locations, go for Boningen's methodology. But I will tell you one thing, these methodologies are not restricted to those books. These methodology can be applied in other books also. You can take synthesis. You can apply Kent's method. You can take Murphy, you can apply Kent's method. Even you can apply Boger's method of causation, concomitant, taking any other repertory. These are all methodology. Need not restrict yourself to those repertory where remedies are less, rubrics are less. Methodology has to be followed. See, Hahnemann has given instruction, but this is applicable to all the repertories, all the Materia Medica. Kent has given instruction. This is applicable to any other repertory. Only methodology has to be Kent's, because case demands Kent's method. So if the case has more generals, go for Kent. If the case has more of causation, concomitant, and pathological generals, go for Boger. If the case has more vague symptoms at various location, sensation, modalities, complete symptoms, go for Boning-Hansen's methodology.
Sir, these days, because of this software repertories, there are many a times cross repertorization, that one rubric from one repertory, other rubric from other repertory. How would you justify?
See, these are at the learning levels. Learning levels, you do cross repertorization. Now, all modern repertories are complete repertories. You can have only one repertory, that's enough. You can have synthesis, you can add complete repertory, you can have Murphy repertory. Then you need not refer any other repertory. These repertories will serve the purpose. But while learning, when we have Boger's repertory, Kent repertory, and therapeutic pocketbook, then we need to refer sometimes other repertories, because the symptoms are not well represented or symptoms are not found at all. Then we have to refer other repertory to complete that symptom, to know the more symptoms and more rubrics.
Thank you, sir. Sir Niranjan Mohanty, sir, Professor, sir, would you like to add something into that before we log off?
Yes, he has told very nicely, but I can say that he has only given salient point. But to my mind, again, for you people, or the people who are not, you are well versed, for you nothing necessary. But for the participants, I can give a message that Kent's repertory is giving one prime importance to mental generals. If there is strong mental generals, more mental generals, and limited generalizations, more specifications is necessary, and more importance is given to, second importance is given to physical generals, and including modalities, and that is also particulars are for final differentiations. This is the case highlighted. And BTPB is a prescription based on complete symptom concept, location, sensation, modalities, concomitant. And here is applied doctrine of analogy, doctrine of concomitant, evaluation remedies, and concomitants, concordance are given importance too. First repertory, doctrine of complete symptom is accepted because Boger is the expanded form of BTPB. So he has taken complete symptoms into account. Doctrine of pathological general has been high importance. Doctrine of causation and time, clinical rubrics, evaluation of remedies are different, and specifically fever totality is very highlighted there, and concordance has followed them. So these are the basic things. Apart from that, we can find from Spalding, and we can find from Elizabeth and Wiseman, and so on and so forth. Many other stalwarts giving their own opinion. And but to my mind, these are the three major repertory have been classified in this pattern of how choosing them. And he has rightly told that now the cross reference is not necessary because complete repertory by Jan Wood and alphabetical repertory by Murphy and synthesis by Frederick Schoen completely complete in all respects, so to say. So if you are handling those with any kind of software, you need not go for any cross references. He has rightly told. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I can give one input there. The inputs is right. Towards last he told the right thing, and intracranial remedy. When there is a block, we think of intracranial remedy, and we prescribe intracranial remedy on the basis of totality of symptom, not arbitrary. Okay, this is the guideline in the papers.
Thank you, sir. It was a very
I
healthy
must thank
discussion.
Dr. Mohanty ji.
Sir,
Sir,
thank you very much. I'm happy with you. You have
and
made the right path.
I am happy that you have added so many things which
But
I thought may not be necessary because of lack of time, but you have added all valuable points.
you have
You
rightly
have
told that I should not be a contender because I have fallen
Yeah,
down from
correct.
the
See, you
speaker
are a
list.
person, you can add many things. And it is
Thank
very good that you have come. It's like complimentary. What I have left, you have made it
Thank you. Thank you for
valuable
your,
suggestions
thank you.
for the
Thank you for your
learners.
assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
participants. Thank you, IAHP. Thank you all. Thank you to the CEC committee, and congratulations to all of us for such a healthy discussion. Thank you all.
Thanks
We
to
are
Dr.
logging off.
Hussaini, Dr. Hussain also. Tanveer
Yes,
Hussain
Dr.
also.
Tanveer. Tanveer, I'm very happy to see you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Namaskar, sir.
Namaste,
Carry on,
namaste.
carry
Very
on
nice
this.
to see you.
Carry on this one. It will be
Very nice to
essential.
see you,
very
and
much.
very nice what you told about me. I'm very happy you remember all the things which we have spent together,
Yes,
the
sir.
time. Yeah, very nice.
Yes, sir. We have studied
This
in
intra-COVID period, this is the way how we can discuss each other.
डॉक्टर
मैं भी
भस्मे
कुछ
जी
बात
नमस्ते नमस्ते डॉक्टर भस्मे जी
नमस्ते नमस्ते
नमस्ते।
नमस्ते
नमस्ते,
मैंने
भास्कर जी।
सीसीएस ग्रुप में देखा था मैसेज मोहंती सर का। मैं बोला चलो आज टाइम निकाल के शशिकांत तिवारी जी का भाषण सुनने के लिए। तो मुझे
सर मैं तो आपका स्टूडेंट हूँ सर,
सबको देखते हुए
आपका स्टूडेंट हूँ, आपके यहाँ से मैंने एमडी किया। सो योर ब्लेसिंग इज ऑलवेज देयर, योर ब्लेसिंग इज ऑलवेज देयर विद मी, आई नो।
गॉड ब्लेस यू। थैंक यू
Thank you all the seniors for such a healthy environment and such a resourceful and rich discussions. Thank you all. I, on the behalf of IAHP, have a special thanks for Dr. Shashikant Tiwari sir, Dr. Niranjan Mohanty sir, Dr. Arun Bhatme sir, and our seniors, Dr. V.K. Gupta sir, Dr. M.A. Rao sir, and all, one and all CEC members. Once again, thank you all. We are logging off till next webinar. Thank you.
कहते असुविधा वो कौन से